And I think we are live. This is Kathleen Acker. I'm the author of The Game of Life. Because when you see life as a game, you can start playing and having a lot of fun and taking back control from the controllers. And with me today, I have a fabulous Rita, all the way from Italy. I'm in the United States and she is in Italy. So we're covering the ground here. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself? Yeah, and we talked a week. I think it was last week, and we had such a good rapport, and so it was just an easy flow conversation. So we thought we'd come and help share what we talked about, and just having a conversation. And I think that's one thing that is missing in a lot of lives is that connection, and we don't know how to connect anymore. And we are in front of our computers so much that teaching people how to just to communicate, whether you're in Italy or the United States, until I can get over there. We can build relationships, and that's what's lacking is the relationships and the connection. Excuse me. And the connection is to ourselves, which is what we both coach on, to others, and to source, whatever that be for someone. And so, and you are a mindset, and it is about mindset. So many people are looking for, excuse me, my coworkers, my dogs are doing their thing. But we have so many people are wanting to know, what is that secret? What's the secret to those people who are living successful, happy lives? First of all, most of them, because I was in a wealthy situation, very, very wealthy in my early 20s. It was not happy at all. It was very abusive. So just because someone appears to be happy does not mean that they're happy. They could be very good at faking it. So there's that. But you want to have that authentic happiness, right? In our heart and in our life. And how do you get that? So I have some fun tips, but I know you do as well. And one of it I found was having my own coach to help me see things differently. You want to give any pointers? Oh my gosh, like you hit on so many things, and I do talk about that in my book as well, but also in just in general conversation. And you hit on so many hot topics right there. That was so packed full. So I took a couple notes. um, it is like you're going. It's like you're going through the motions, and there's been different waves because I'm a tad bit older. But it's like waves, and I look back at the patterns of the times that I've like just like you're just going through because you're just trying to survive. We're in survival mode, and or at least I'm not speaking for everybody, but I felt that I was in survival mode a lot of the time. I was raising two kids by myself with somebody that was there when it was popular for him to be there and play the dad role and then exit when it wasn't convenient for him or popular, and raising up and working so many hours in the corporate world and feeling the lack. I didn't have the connection. I didn't have, I knew this wasn't the life that I was supposed to live. And I knew that there was so much more. And so you were hitting on that because all of a sudden it's awareness, right? And you hit it in different stages of your life, and then you move up, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I've plateaued again. So it's a new awareness. So it's not a one and done, is what I'm saying. Is it's a constant, you kindergarten, first grade, second grade, it's a constant evolution, and it doesn't stop when you get to college. I don't think, maybe it does, but so you did hit up on that, and it was just, I think one of the important things was when you become aware, it's asking, and asking and you shall receive. And so when you ask, all of a sudden information will come to you. It's kind of like in the movie like Hunger Games or something like that. When they needed something, all of a sudden it comes out of nowhere, right? And we get messages, whether it's AI tapping into it, whether it's a friend sending a note out of the blue or reaching out, or you see something and you're like, well, that's weird. We discount that. And when we're in the awareness, when we're mindful, which is what we both teach, is to be mindfully aware. And then you're like, oh my God, that's a sign. So I always ask for signs in three, and I get them because I asked. And so therefore I'm paying attention. Those signs are there every single day for me. Some days I'm just like, yep, I'm not going to see you. It could be like this phone right in front of me, like, hello. And I'm like, get away, I'm not seeing you. But it's a choice. And that's where people say that we have a choice. And everyone is chosen, but few accept. And it's in that choice, in that moment, to see things differently, because that's one of the things that you talked about is you were unhappy. And I've been there. And I'm willing to wager that anyone listening has also felt like the weight of the shoulders, the world is on their shoulders, and unhappy, and like, what is going? Life has to be better. There has to be more. And so it's when you start to become aware, you move the scales from your eyes to see differently. You're asking to see differently, and it changes your perception, your perspective on things, and that includes friends and family. And it doesn't mean that um, because you're searching, you're trying to develop yourself. And if they're not, we love them. But we also want to be around people. We're thirsty, right? We're thirsty for to know more. We're thirsty for a better life. And sometimes we're going to have to seek out some friends that are in line with that. And that's one of the difficult parts. It doesn't mean that those friends and family aren't in your life. It just means your relationship changes a little bit. But being a mom, I got to tell you, my relationships with moms change. If I'm in volleyball, I'm friends with the volleyball moms, and I might stay friends. But as our kids go on to other things, you just change. It's just part of life. It's not a bad part. It's just part of the game. So I just wanted to touch on some of the things that you said. And um, what did you find helpful when you started this? Like, you were like, okay, something's not right. I'm not happy. What were some of the things that helped you start to create a new life? Yeah, and so that is so impactful as well because um, we put on a face, right, of, that we're happy, and especially like on Facebook or wherever on social media, everybody's like, I have the perfect family, this and that, and that's not always the truth, right? There's more behind the scenes, behind the curtain, and we're pulling back the veil, and that's one thing that I talk about and that I live truly is pulling back the veil on truth and corruption and myself. And in doing so, I think that a lot of us, our society has kind of taught us to like somebody else or something else, like go buy this, it'll make you happy. Go do this, it'll make you happy. Go here, it'll make you happy. That person will make you happy. Have you found that person yet? And it's when I got divorced, I was a single mom. He was really not in the picture. He was living in another state and everything. So I was always with my kids. And then um, their dad moved closer and started seeing them more, and I would have a whole weekend by myself. And so at first I did, what society tells you to do, go out and drink. Well, I'm not like, I love to have fun, but that's just not going to satisfy me for very long. So then I was like, you know what, I can sit at home and watch movies and like have that be my happiness. And then that didn't satisfy me for very long, but I've always had the tools to know that I am enough. And I was raised that way to know that I'm enough. So it was really, it wasn't the first time I've done a deep dive inwardly, but it's going inwardly. It's listening. I listen and read constantly. I'm listening. I have Audible. I, I don't know. One year I did 117 books on Audible alone. That's not the books that I read on top. And so I'm constantly feeding my thoughts. And so when you're saying, you appear happy, I can be on the couch one day and be like, wake up. And you're like, why do I have this energy? Why am I feeling this? For somebody does something. Recently, I've been in a court situation. Um, and that will suck the life out of anyone, right? I mean, it's just disheartening, especially a family situation. It's so disheartening to know that someone that you loved, that took an oath to love you and protect you, is can be so dishonorable, and it just rips your heart out when you're a compassionate person. And so I was battling, like, you want to like be mad, right? And you can be on the couch because it doesn't feel good in the heart to be mad. It doesn't feel good in the heart to not be happy. So one of my tools, and I want to hear your tools, is I allow myself to feel that for 24 hours. And I embody it. I feel it. I pray. I meditate. I sleep. I eat ice cream always. Some, some all that sugar, don't eat sugar, people are on me now. But for me, that's a happy place. And then before that 24 hours goes, I know that if I'm breathing, oxidizing my blood, just taking a moment and starting, there's so many fun breathing techniques. And they're not voodoo, they're not anything like that. I mean, we're already casting spells with our words. So when people say, oh, that's some, you know, witchcraft or something like that, it's not that, right? Breathing. You're doing it anyway, but when you're mindfully breathing, you're sending oxygen to your brain and to your heart, to the cells in your body, and you're allowing them to release that depression, that anxiety, that unhappiness. You're letting all of that out. You're cleansing your soul when you start taking those breaths. So, and then I dance, and I noted that you have videos where you're just like, hey, I'm just going to dance now. And it's so true because you're in your house. So, like, I mean, who can see you? AI can probably see us, but who cares? And because when you start moving your body and you start breathing, and then just for a moment, society's taught us to look at all the bad, like everything that's bad. Like this person is doing this to me because I know how to play victim because society taught me to play victim. But when we shift that thought and we think, I'm actually not a victim because I know how to play the game, right? And so if I choose to not, if I choose, and that's where choice comes in. If I choose to be the hero in my game, how would the hero act? How would my role model that I aspire to be act? How would that version, because you said this isn't my life, earlier, and this isn't who I am. So how does that person who I really see myself being act? And then you start shifting out of it. And it doesn't mean like you're one and done in 24 hours, right? It's still a healing process. It just means you're allowing yourself to feel it, to release it, and to start seeing differently, to move onward. And so it's not like you're always happy. And the more you do this, you'll get challenges to experience. That is, yeah, right. And it, oh gosh, you like always have the patterns. First of all, always seeing your patterns, the rhythm, because it's a law of rhythm, right? And so society teaches us to have a certain rhythm, and everyone's like, oh well, change is uncomfortable. Change is not uncomfortable. It's actually fun. um Being miserable and unhappy, and that's comfortable because it's familiar. So just knowing the right words is that's not comfortable. Your daily life, when you're going through the motions and you're, doing the old stuff, that's really not, you don't identify with anymore. I mean, I might have identified with going to the bars and drinking when I was in my 20s, but I am not in my 20s anymore. And so I can't identify with that version of myself. I have changed, but I haven't divorced that. I haven't let that go. And that's one of the important things, to help as you start waking up and you want to search for more and you want to, like, this, it's time for me to have to have this version of myself that I've always really pictured. And it's coming to mind for a reason, because the world is changing, and we're here to help each other to evolve, to enlighten, and to rise up. And part of that is the courage. And so what you're talking about is the baseline of courage, having the courage to see that relationship differently, to see your patterns differently, and choosing. So people pleasing, what I found, and is dishonor, because I'm all about honor and learning that and embodying that. It doesn't mean I'm always in honor. Okay. Like, people are like, oh, well, that was a dishonorable act. How do I learn if I don't do, we learn from trial and error. It's a constant learning process. I haven't figured it all out. I had someone say, oh, well, I guess you're just the pro at it. And I was like, okay, that's the attitude, that judgmental attitude, that when maybe I should have said it differently so I can learn to say it differently so I don't come off as a know-it-all. So thank you for that, to that person. But that's not exactly what I said, because I had actually written it, and that's their interpretation because their experience is right. But people pleasing is a dishonor to our soul. So I think that we come here with a purpose. We come here with like a mission, like a game. Like, here's your game. You can play it or not. It's your choice. And you can make it as miserable at that vibration. Here's two magnets. I love magnets because this is the law of attraction, law of vibration that everybody talks about. This is constantly in motion. We're an electromagnetic field of energy. Our vibration energy is always there. So when you wake up and you're in a bad mood, you're operating on on this level, this wave, and you're like, hey, I want to, like, this doesn't feel good. This is where I want to be. So when you start to realize your patterns are like operating here, this is familiar, but I envision myself being up here. It's because that's where you're supposed to be. You wouldn't want something if it wasn't what you were supposed to be. So then you peak up and you're like, hey, I did, and I'm going to get into methods that I use that help, like dancing and breathing, help me spike up, and then you're going to go down because this is familiar. You're going to keep going back to that Cheerios or whatever ice cream that you like, and then but you're going to go up, and the more you get up and the more you're here, then you've raised your magnetic energy or electromagnetic field of energy. When this gets so, people who aren't, um, when you're operating at a higher vibration, you're not going to attract this. It's not going to be in your electromagnetic field of energy. So people are like, how does that work? You can be in a situation and not see it, not even know it's there because it's operating in a different vibration. And so people talk about parallel universes and that they're going on at the same time, and that there's different versions of us. So it's a vibration magnetic field of energy. So if you think like, I wake up today, how can I operate at this level and not this level? And that's some of the keys that we'll get into. But in this process, there is isolation, because you were talking about, like, you start to see things differently, you start to see people differently, and you realize that people pleasing is not benefiting me. Okay, it's dishonor to my soul. So to be in honor, sometimes we have to go through isolation where we're, working on ourselves, and we're listening, and it's what are we feeding our body and mind, because it's nourishing our soul. And to heal our soul, is hurt because we've been so bad to it. We have been so bad to it. We've chosen junk food, be it where we hang out or who we hang out with or whatever. And like, I love junk food. Okay. But I really feel better when I eat healthy. Right. And when I'm working out or when I'm doing this or that, that's just something for people to be able to relate to. You like, who doesn't like a good, really fresh, not GMO strawberry? Like, picked from the garden. It tastes fabulous. There's so many things that go in, and then it's also feeding your body with a different energy frequency. We are what we eat, literally, and what we feed our minds. So I wanted to touch on that, and you touched on layers as well, and it is layers. It's layers of an electromagnetic field of energy. And I love drawing, so I'm going to draw. If you Because charts were in my life and in some people's lives that are in corporate, right? And we've all seen charts. And so if you're used to operating down here, you can have ups and downs, and then, but your normal late, that's where you're familiar right here. And you're miserable when you're down here, and you're high when you're up here, and you want more of this. So it's by doing some of the things that we're saying, like giving yourself some time, seeing differently, recognizing that, being open and willing to go through the isolation so that this, you're starting to hit that, and then you're starting to hit more. And then I know I'm really bad on this, and I wish I had my board because I can do better. But then all of a sudden, now you've created a new baseline, and that's what you want to do, is create a new baseline. So when you get that baseline, now you're like, now you've touched up here. I want more of that. How do I get that? And so, what are some of the tools and techniques that you use to, like, hey, I know that that worked, so I'm going to keep doing that, because we've talked about some of them, but let's just repeat that. That's so key. Now, just anybody listening to this, whenever you're listening to this, you deserve more. You deserve more. You deserve the best of the best. You are a king or a queen who's ever listening to this. You are the king and queen of your castle, and you deserve more. Stop beating yourself up because society has taught us that, and start realizing that you are magnificent. Whoever's listening to this, you are magnificent. How did we meet? Think about that. You're in Italy. I'm in the middle of the United States. And I've, like, friends have changed, family have changed, lots of things have happened, especially in the past year. I think it's, although I've had a lot of trying times in my life, the more that I learn, this has been the hardest year. Um, but I was like, I really want to meet people who talk my language, that talk about mindset. And I I don't even know exactly how we met, but it was Facebook. And I don't know how many millions, is there billions of users on Facebook? Think about that. Okay. Billions of people in the world. And how do I find someone that speaks my language? And my kids have always wanted to go to Italy. So there's, so I've got Italy in my mind. And all of a sudden, you reached out, or I reached out, or I posted something, and you said, "Hey, I do a podcast. Would you like to be on it?" I was like, "Sure." And then we met. And I was praying for that. I was asking, I want to meet somebody. And my kids, when I was asking for that, and I were talking about, like, where would you travel if you could travel? And they said Italy. And you and I met. I'm not in Italy, but am I not in Italy because you're in Italy and we're talking, you know? So don't use the signs, but it's as simple as that. And I want to let people know that, just be open. There's billions of people, I think. Um, I don't know the numbers. Somebody can check that for me. But I think that there's probably billions on Facebook. There's definitely multi millions, right? Hundreds of millions, not a billion. And and yet you and I met, and I'm sure you've met because you have a podcast. So you've been meeting amazing people all over because you were open to seeing things differently and starting a podcast. And then you started attracting that, and you're visioning. I already know we're going to meet like in the future. I know I'm meeting you like face to face. Hopefully, that's not mine, but yours too. But that's simple as it can be. And I just want people to know it doesn't have to be like, you know, it can be as simple as you making a post on Facebook and then being open, and someone's like, "Hey, I like that energy. You want to be on my podcast?" And it changes. And I mean, we're forming a friendship long distance because we both vibe on the same vibration frequency, and attracted that. And you were like, "Hey, let's do some lives," and I was like, "Sounds good to me," right? Absolutely. You're authentic and you're real, and that's what's so beautiful. And then you said you can't do the work for someone else, and I think this is an extremely good point to touch on because so many people want to take a pill. Farmica is very programmed, extremely programmed. I mean, Farmica is owned by the big banker. I won't say any names, but I know for a fact because I've done my research, because that's what my like side gig is. I really research and study a lot. So when people are like, "Oh, how do you know?" I'm like, "I've researched it. I'm not going to show you my research. Go do it yourself." If I say something, I know it to be true. Okay, because I've done my research. So I know that there's a black, bank, and there's a rock, and that's a banker, and they do own the major pharmaceuticals that I've looked into companies. So everybody wants a pill. You want to take that pill that's just going to make life better. And I got good news for you. There is no pill that Vermica can ever make except to bring you back down, because the vibration of that is to get you out of your own vibration frequency. We all have, just like a thumbprint, we have a unique vibration frequency that is ours. Our electromagnetic field of energy is unique to us. And when you're taking a pill, you're saying, I don't want mine, I want another type of frequency. And that puts you in dis-ease and dishonor of your soul. And so many people are, that's the increase of so many sadness. And I feel sadness. I feel sadness. This year, I have felt it tenfold because I've allowed it, because I'm absorbing it and I'm letting it out. And when you learn to absorb it and let it out like a sponge, you can squeeze it out, let all the water in, let all the sadness in, feel it, and then squeeze it out. It's beautiful. But I can't do the work for someone else. But I can help. I can hold their hand. I can show them what worked, and so can you, right? And learning something from that. Yeah. And it's beautiful because when you start doing it yourself, and that's having a coach and having friends that support you and encourage you, it's what you're feeding your mind, because your thoughts create energy and motion, which is emotion, feelings, and that's your reaction or your response, right? That's the action. So, I mean, you got your thoughts. And so when you're feeding your thoughts constantly, it's that sponge, like what the water that's coming in, is it filthy? Is it clean? And you can choose what's going to be the type of water coming in. And you know that the energy emotion that's going to come out is a result of that. But while it's in there, while it's in us, while we're feeling that, while we're experiencing that sadness or that anger, that abandonment feeling, or whatever it is, that unhappiness, the like, just give me a drink, I need a drink, I hear that a lot, right? I did hear that a lot. I just need to have a drink to deal with this. Or you could feel it and come up with a solution as to not continue to feel it over and over and over again. When you're getting up and you're having the same pattern every single day and you're tired of it, at what point, what will it take for you, not the pill, because we know that the pill's not going to last and you're going to need more pills and that's going to have side effects. And that's okay because Ramika made a cure for that one. Not a cure, but, um, I had a friend that was like on so many different medicines. This one caused that, which is not a problem because then you just take this, that not a problem because that had a side effect, and then that. And she, before I met her, had gotten off all of them herself because she started researching and learning, oh, this causes that. So what if I wean down on all of them and then wean down more? And what if I start using oils or eating differently? And she is off all of them and living her best life. But I nobody can do that for you. It's having surrounding yourself with what your thoughts are, with who's feeding you, who's talking to you, who's your support system, listening to conversations like this, and finding people that do that. But even when what I do a lot is I teach people to really speak their truth and to stand up. And that's a courage. That takes courage and getting them to that point. But I can't go to the board meeting for them. I can't write the letter. I mean, I can draft it, but it's their energy that has to come forth. And when they do it, I got a call this week. And I just talked to somebody for a couple minutes, like, I don't know, 20 minutes on the phone, and it was about an issue and I gave her some tips. They went to a board meeting and I'm so happy because she texted me and said, we got what we wanted at the board meeting, at the school board meeting. And kids got up and spoke and parents got up and spoke. And that is that's empowerment. That's the courage level. And so knowing that you have someone, hey, I can reach out to this person, have a 20-minute conversation. And with that, I couldn't go speak for them. My energy wouldn't have changed the board. It was because they were so passionate about it. And it was like people need a permission slip. And that's all. I think that just in talking to me, it was like a permission maybe. And because I know her and she has the power within her. She's done it before, but now she was kind of helping lead others to it as well. You know, kids spoke, parents spoke, and they spoke their truth. And when you do that, it's just, if we could, everybody reaches that courage level on the Hawkins scale of courage, that's empowerment. And then the more we get there, the more it lifts up everybody else. So we can't do it for anyone, but we can certainly speak truth to them and help them in them. Yeah, go ahead. Um, Help them find that in them. It is. Yeah. It changes in an instant. It literally can change like that. Your mood can change like that. Your like having ice cream can change that mood like that. Like you feel that coldness go in, it can change that fast. Some of the things that I use are like I have cards all over. This one says, "Do I want it bad enough to figure it out?" I have that on my desk because whenever I'm feeling down, and then I also have on my desk, your mission accomplished. and then permission granted. So if, when people are like, well, how do you get into that um, moment of change? I have cards. It's not like I have one or two. I have different ones. They have different meanings, different purposes, and I know and trust that I will pull it out. I have something that I read every single morning, and I'll tell you what, the mornings that I don't read it do not go as well. And then my mission, yeah, and journaling. And I think because you deserve better, we all deserve better. We don't have to we don't have to be controlled by government and by the powers that be, and by bankers that control us with food or um, whatever. And I'm not saying that all. I want to clarify because I'm sure I rocked the boat for quite a few people that like survive on medication. I'm not saying all medication. I'm just saying be mindful. And sometimes there are alternatives to what pharma has, and to be mindful of the intention behind whatever it is that you're choosing to take. And that's with what you're feeding your thoughts and what you're feeding your body. Um, Dang it, I lost what I was going to say because you said something and I didn't write it down. I always have to write it. God, do you remember what you just said? And life happens. I remember now. Life happens for us, not to us. And that is a huge, I think, game changer. Is when you start realizing that you're not the victim. And that is a mindset that has been programmed for us through television and media and news and movies. Like somebody else can have that, but not you. You do, if you're listening to this, you do deserve the best of the best. And life is happening for you. And that's where the choice is. In every now, the choice is, how can I see this differently? How can I change this feeling, this emotion, this thought so that I have a different action? You can't undo the past, yet you can by letting it go. We carry this like this books. I have so many books of the past, right? A book for every single day of my past. That would be really heavy if I didn't burn some of it and let it go. And I'm sure you have methods and tools, and we've been rambling for a while. And I think what we should do is like keep these conversations happening. So, because I think I find them beneficial. So whether someone else does or not, I think that it's nice to have this because you hit on major points throughout this. But life happens for you. Yeah, that is so key. Yeah. I mean, when we go through the BS in life, well, that means we're closer. And it's just like when you're cleaning a room, it gets really messy before you can really, because you have to sort everything out. You got to have your junk pile and your keep pile and your I don't know pile. You've got to get the whole room. You got to clean that closet, those drawers out, and make piles, and then reevaluate everything. And that's what we're doing is we're taking all of the past and saying, you know what, I've been explosive with family, especially, and because of hurt that hasn't been let out, and and then it repeats and it repeats and it repeats and it builds up and it builds up because I wasn't true to myself, because I didn't say something then, because I didn't know how to speak it, I didn't know how to communicate it effectively to someone else. Not their fault. I mean, they're just doing what they're doing, to help teach me so that I can rise to that point, so that I can let it out. Now, maybe that's not the best way to let it out, but I learned from it. And I learned that, I blessed them all because they had the patience to help me um, see that whole thing differently. And I also know that I need to release that from myself. And it was an explosion, like an atomic bomb. Like, I'm going to let you know how I feel. And boom, 60 years of it. Boom. Um, but then it felt so good. And it changed the dynamics, but the dynamics needed to change. So just know that whatever it is and however it comes out, it's all for a reason. And sometimes the dynamics doesn't mean it can't, it changes the dynamics, and you can heal relationships like you can heal a wound. It just heals. It's different, and there can be scars, but who's to say that a scar isn't beautiful? Because I think scars are the most beautiful. I mean, I have plenty on my heart, and I'm thankful for all of them. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a good place to wrap this up. And then you had said that you want to start having these. And I think that these kind of conversations that we've had are so powerful and impactful. Um, but having the relationships that you want to have in your life is sometimes having to let go of those. Sometimes you gotta, like, I've worn that sweater for 20 years and I love that sweater. I love it. Sometimes it's ready for somebody else to have. and doesn't mean that you don't have pictures and memories and but a new sweater shows up, and mhm, right, and our friendships and relationships, they're not all romantic. If you're in a romantic relationship, hopefully you have a friendship, you know that's what's missing from a lot of things, and building that relationship and having conversations, just open and honest conversations, real conversations, not about the weather. I mean, we did talk about the weather actually before we started, right? It's hot there, getting hot here, and I can see my dog in the background, going, let me in. But, um, you know, it's beyond weather. And that's where we took it's beyond weather. We go, yeah, that is, God, you just have so much power in all the words that you say. It's facing that fear and that scared, because on the other side is the pot of gold, and realizing that. And so maybe that's a good topic for us to have the next time, is facing that scared and facing fear, because that's a whole topic in and of itself. And I think we touched on quite a few nuggets, and I'll write them down, and then maybe we can dive deeper into each nugget that we talked about today, because today was packed full, I think. And uh, hold on, I'm gonna probably end the live stream, and whoever watches this, whenever you watch it, in your time and space in the universe, I send you love and letting you know. I think the biggest takeaway was when Rita said, "Life happens for you, not to you," and that was one of my big takeaways. And you have the choice to see things differently. Did you want to add anything? Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm writing this down. Everybody, we will have more conversations. I think just regular, like, hop on, like, we're having a cup of coffee, and let's just share with people. But in that moment, like, this moment will pass, and having more tools on, like, how to make it pass faster, just like taking a pill. We have a prescription for you. It's just It's just of a different kind, right? So I think that's a good fun note to end on. Stay on, and if you're here, thank you so much for listening, and hopefully you caught it all. And if you found value, please like and share. Mine is the Game of Life 101. Uh, my website is thegameoflife101.com. all of my social media is Game of Life 101. And Rita, why don't you tell them where they can find you? And I'll take you too on that. So everybody catch that, and then we'll schedule another live, and we'll like post it. We're gonna go live again. This was kind of on the fly, so I like on the fly. Like, hey, we're gonna go live. It could be tomorrow. It could be 3 hours from now. But let's talk. Stay on, everybody. Life is a game. Play it as a game. Have some fun, and you're not alone. You are not alone. There's lots of us here. All right, and stay on, and see you later. Oh, wait, wait.